The year is 1778. The American Revolution, birthed in fiery rhetoric and gunpowder smoke, has settled into a grim stalemate. General George Washington, the weary but determined commander of the Continental Army, watches from his encampment in New Jersey as the British Army, under the command of Sir Henry Clinton, enjoys the comforts of occupied New York City. The city is a glittering, treacherous hub of Loyalist society, British military might, and simmering patriot resentment. Washington knows he cannot defeat the Redcoats through open battle alone. He needs an edge. He needs eyes and ears inside the stone walls of the British command, a network of spies so secret, so effective, that their very existence will remain a mystery for over a century. This is not the story of generals and grand armies. It is the story of ordinary citizens who risked the noose for an idea. It is the story of the Culper Spy Ring, a highly effective but discreet network which Washington himself would only refer to in correspondence as "my friends." At its heart were a few trusted men and, astonishingly, a daring woman known only by her coded number, Agent 355. The ring's inception lay in the hands of Major Benjamin Talmadge, a brilliant 24-year-old former classmate of the executed spy Nathan Hale. Haunted by Hale's fate, Talmadge understood the brutal risks, but his loyalty to Washington and the cause of independence was absolute. Washington's directive was clear: build a network that could survive in a hornet's nest. Talmadge began by recruiting a childhood friend, Abraham Woodhull, a quiet farmer from Setauket, Long Island. Long Island was a hotbed of loyalism, making Woodhull's location ideal for watching British movements. He became Samuel Culper Sr., the first code name, a nod to Culpeper County, Virginia, a place Washington knew well. Woodhull's cover was a farmer whose loyalist sentiments were just convincing enough to avoid deep suspicion, though his constant nervous movements often brought the British closer than he liked. Woodhull's initial intelligence was limited to troop movements on Long Island, but to gather the truly critical intelligence, the British strategic plans, he needed a man in the heart of Manhattan. Enter Robert Townsend, a seemingly mild-mannered Quaker merchant and owner of a dry goods store in the city, who often moonlighted as a society columnist for James Rivington's Tory-leaning newspaper, Rivington's Gazette. Townsend, codenamed Samuel Culper Jr., was the ultimate urban chameleon. He moved effortlessly through the coffee houses, taverns, and military gatherings of New York's elite, sipping Madeira and listening. As a merchant, he was privy to shipping manifests and quartermaster orders. As a writer, he was ignored as a harmless chronicler of fashion and gossip. In reality, he was meticulously cataloging troop strengths, ship sailings, and most crucially, the whispered plans of General Clinton's inner circle. Townsend was arguably the most essential and the most reluctant spy. A pacifist by faith, he was a warrior of words and secrets, wrestling with the moral paradox of espionage in the name of liberty. The transmission of this high-stakes information required a chain of hands and a masterful system of disguise. Woodhull would travel to New York, often under the pretense of visiting his sister, to meet Townsend. Their exchanges were silent, a sealed letter, tucked into a false bottom box or a book, passed in the dim light of Townsend's shop. From there, the information was entrusted to the couriers. The most famous was Caleb Brewster, a robust, fearless whaleboat captain. Brewster ran a gauntlet of British warships and coastal patrols, rowing across the unforgiving Long Island Sound, often by the light of the moon, to deliver the intelligence back to Setauket. He risked a cannonball or the bayonet's cold embrace on every trip. The final essential link in Setauket was Anna Strong. She was not a courier, but a crucial signal woman. Her husband, Selah Strong, a prominent patriot judge, had been briefly imprisoned by the British. With her children and her home constantly under the scrutiny of British officers quartered nearby, Anna devised an ingenious system of silent communication that made her a legend among the spies. When Caleb Brewster was due to arrive in the cove for a pickup,
Anna would hang her laundry on her clothesline. The number of handkerchiefs she displayed corresponded to the specific cove where Brewster would moor his whaleboat. The color of a black petticoat or a white sheet, subtly placed, indicated that the message was ready for transfer. It was domestic, unremarkable, and perfectly invisible to the redcoats. The secret to American liberty hung right next to her family's everyday wash. Woodhull would meet Brewster, retrieve the coded message, and pass it on to Major Talmadge, who was always nearby on the Connecticut shore. Talmadge would read the letters, often written in the sympathetic stain, an invisible ink made from copperas and water, which only revealed its secrets when brushed with a chemical reagent, decode them, and forward the crucial intelligence directly to General Washington. The Ring's sophistication was unmatched. They used a dictionary code, where words were replaced by a 3-digit number representing the page, column, and word count. For instance, Washington might be 711, page 7, column 1, word 1. The system, paired with the invisible ink and the silent signals, allowed them to communicate highly complex, sensitive information across enemy lines with a security that baffled British intelligence. The Culper Ring's greatest triumph, the moment that arguably saved the entire American cause, was the exposition of Benedict Arnold. In 1780, Arnold, a celebrated but embittered American general, began secret negotiations with Major John André, the dashing, artistic head of British intelligence. Arnold, deep in debt and feeling slighted by Congress, had agreed to surrender West Point,
the Continental Army's most strategic fort on the Hudson River, for a staggering sum of cash and a commission in the British Army. The Culper Ring, and specifically Culper Jr., Robert Townsend, caught wind of the suspicious secret communications between Arnold and a high-ranking British officer. Townsend, utilizing his access in New York society, began piecing together the threads of the conspiracy. He reported his grand suspicions through the established chain, from the tavern to Anna Strong's clothesline, to Caleb Brewster's boat, and finally to Talmadge. The information was timely, but the final, damning piece of evidence came into the hands of a few vigilant American militiamen who captured Major André carrying the final coded plans from Arnold. However, the intelligence gathered by the Culper Ring ensured that Washington was already on high alert and able to act decisively when the papers were seized. Major André was captured, the plot was uncovered, and Benedict Arnold, his plan in shambles, fled to the British side, becoming the most infamous traitor in American history. The security of the Hudson River and the Continental Army was preserved, thanks to the Culper Ring. Yet there is one ghost in this history, one member whose contribution was whispered, but whose name was lost, Agent 355. Her identity remains one of the greatest mysteries of the American Revolution. What is known is that 355 was the code for lady in the Culper cipher. She was a woman of high social standing in New York, possibly a socialite or a woman with close family ties to the Loyalists, which allowed her access to circles Robert Townsend could not penetrate. She worked closely with Townsend and is credited with providing intelligence that led directly to Major André's capture. Some historians believe she was Anna Strong's neighbor, while others speculate she was a woman named Sally Townsend, Robert's own sister. What is certain is that she was a fearless, intelligent woman who risked everything to be the eyes of the revolution in the densest quarters of the enemy. The legend takes a darker, more poignant turn when the British, realizing the devastating efficacy of the American spy network, finally tracked one of the Ring's sources. In 1780, Agent 355 was reportedly arrested. Some accounts suggest she was imprisoned on the notorious British prison ship, the HMS Jersey, anchored in New York Harbor, and may have even given birth while in captivity before dying there. It is a terrifying, heartbreaking reminder of the war's personal cost.
a high society lady once mingling with the very officers she betrayed, dying alone in the squalor of a prison ship, her ultimate sacrifice lost to history. The Culper Spy Ring operated for 5 years until the end of the war, without a single member being conclusively exposed and executed. Their success was built on trust, secrecy, and the ingenious use of everyday objects, a petticoat, a ship's manifest, a merchant's ledger, to convey the secrets of a nation's destiny. After the British surrendered at Yorktown, the members of the Culper Ring quietly melted back into their civilian lives. Robert Townsend returned to his dry goods store, Anna Strong to her farm and family. They took the dangerous knowledge of their wartime activities to their graves, their anonymity assured by the steadfast secrecy of Washington and Major Tolmage. Washington, a man who believed deeply in the necessity of espionage, wrote in 1779, "The necessity of procuring good intelligence is apparent, and need not be enlarged upon." The full identities and methods of the Culper Ring were not entirely confirmed until the 1930s, when historian Morton Pennypacker discovered letters in the Townsend family home, matching the cryptic hand of Culper Jr. to Washington's private intelligence correspondence. Today, the story of George Washington's Secret Six, the inner circle of Woodhull, Townsend, Brewster, Anna Strong, Tolmage, and the mysterious Agent 355 stands as a testament to the fact that the fight for American liberty was not just won on open battlefields, but in the shadows. It was a victory secured by a farmer's anxiety, a merchant's pen, a boatman's rowing, and most miraculously, a line of laundry drying in the salt air. A secret weapon wielded by common citizens who understood that sometimes the greatest act of courage is to be utterly invisible. They were the silent architects of independence, heroes who asked for no parades and whose names were their greatest secret. The story of the Culper Spy Ring, of the 6 ordinary Americans who became Washington's secret weapon, is more than a tale of intrigue. It is the ultimate proof that freedom is often won in the shadows by people who ask for nothing but the preservation of a new nation. They lived in fear, they wrote in invisible ink, and they risked the gallows every single day, their only monument being the lasting liberty they helped secure. They remind us that the greatest acts of patriotism are often the most secret ones. If you were captivated by the courage of Abraham Woodhull, the sharp mind of Robert Townsend, the daring of Caleb Brewster, the silent brilliance of Anna Strong, and the tragic mystery of Agent 355, then you've just glimpsed the fascinating depths of the American past. Subscribe to HQ History for more deep dives into the forgotten corners and untold true tales of American history. Hit that like button, ring the notification bell, and join our community as we continue to uncover the real history behind the legends.